I had a casual relationship with this woman for 1.5 years. We used to work together, so we didn't initiate anything. After she left, we strictly established a purely S relationship. We both set the boundaries and were clear-cut from the beginning. Near the end of the relationship, I didn't like what it was turning into, so I was the one to break it off. Needless to say, it was a messy break-off. Relationship started when I was 21 and ended by the time I was 23. I'm 28 now. A couple months go by and she says she's pregnant with my child. Long story short, she fed a story to her parents on how we were dating for 3 years and that I was ashamed to be seen with her and that I was neglecting my responsibility to my child. I do some digging and found another man and asked him how he knows this woman. The details he told me line up with the time I broke it off with her. He ended up sleeping with her 3 months after our relationship was done. Eventually, the other man gets tested and comes back, he's not the father. Due to the circumstances at the time, I accepted the fact that this was my child. I know I was stupid and deserve all the crap that is given to me. Ultimately, I ended up paying a collective of $9,000 for child support. After some time, I found out that there was a third man involved, and after a long process and arguing back and forth with this woman, he gets tested, and he is indeed the father. After I found out, I did some research, and there was no guarantee I would get my money. However, I still got a lawyer just to be sure. He ultimately petitioned the court to stop the child support. However, he found a way to get my money back. At this point, we complete the steps necessary to file a claim against my old friend with benefits. Word gets out of what I'm doing, and her friends and family are trying to talk me out of it, saying that I'm an a-hole for suing a struggling mother, and that I'm just neglecting being a father. If this was my child, I would without a doubt do everything needed to raise them. However, I feel used and don't have an obligation to help the mother. I'm just looking for perspective. Am I in the wrong for taking countermeasures against my old friend with benefits? She committed fraud, and you are seeking restitution. That is all. Absolutely not wrong. What she did was heinous, and there should be consequences, which there aren't even. You are just getting your money back. Anyone that tells you otherwise, tell them they're free to give her $10,000, since they're just as related to the kid as you are. I can't believe how dumb people are sometimes. Sorry you have to deal with this. My husband used to be in a 3-year relationship with a not-so-nice lady. They broke up and she was ordered to move at least 2 kilometers away from him, due to her behaviors. When we got together and he opened up with me, I actually encouraged him to go to therapy. He had been to court-mandated sessions to deal with stuff, but did not follow up, so it was needed. He got help, got an amazing job. We moved in together, got married, the whole stuff. His family has been nothing but amazing to me, and his mom and I have a very nice relationship. She makes me feel less homesick on special dates. I'm an immigrant. The issue started some weeks ago. He received a letter asking for child support payments for his ex's kid. He showed me the letter, and I recommended he talk to his friends. The thing is, while my husband is not a lawyer, he hangs out with a lot of them, and they are pretty incredible at what they do. His social circle is basically composed of lawyers, IT, and marketing people, which, back in the day, was not. Important later. They advised a paternity test, of course, but also wrote a certified letter stating that if the kid is his, not in the birth certificate, didn't know the kid existed, he would like to get to know the child, visitation, and eventual custody. The letter also stated that he was willing to pay back child support and give the kid his last name if allowed by the mother. But due to the issue between him and the mother, my husband had a right to not see her, ever, since he is, after all, a victim. They also demanded to know why he was not informed of the kid, and the reasoning about why the request for child support was done now and not before. I thought it was a very standard letter. I support my husband 100%, and my dad even offered to pay the legal fees, but his friends said they would of course not charge him more than a couple of beers. Paternity test is positive. The issue comes now since the ex thought my husband would just have a panic attack, which he did, after getting the news, and pay her whatever she demanded or claimed. She did not expect him to have legal representation, want to claim the kid, etc. She expected him to cave in, do not want to claim the kid, and just give her money since he would be scared. The ex got in contact with my in-laws, told them that if my husband kept this up, they will never see the kid. My mother-in-law is begging me to take off my husband's support. She thinks I'm financing it, because she so desperately wants a grandchild. She even asked me to convince my husband to request the protections off, so his ex can move back close to him. I, for the first time in 5 years, told her to go to ducking hell. She keeps saying I am encouraging the problem, am heartless, selfish, and I do not understand, cause I do not have any kids. My dad supports us, but my mom and brother are unsure about my position. So you need to point out to the mother-in-law that by supporting the two of you and your struggle, She will actually have a chance to see the child. The ex was the one hoping he would just pay and not want to be part of the kid's life. But if she's going to just fight you two, then cut her out for now. It's hard enough what you're doing right now and are about to go through. Not in a bad way. If it's what you want, then this kid will be amazing in all the ways you expect, and in so many ways you'll never even think of. Your mother-in-law is having the panic attack the ex thought your husband would have. The legal way is the best way. It is then clear for everyone what the roles and responsibilities are. Mother-in-law will not miss out on the child unless the ex steals him away. Long story short, I married a man who turned out to be a psychopath. No empathy, extremely emotionally gaslit and emotionally crushed me daily until I was almost dead. He used taking my family's home as a way of forcing me to stay in the relationship. I faced death several times near the end of it, and afterwards. It took 2 years after I divorced him to recover my physical health and the stress, with numerous visits to the ER and 40-plus doctor's visits, infections, etc. I still suffer from constant anxiety and insomnia after surviving it. During the separation, I confided in my family about the I was clear and upfront about what was happening. My dad decided to do things that made it more difficult for me to successfully save my home and get rid of my ex, even though I explicitly asked him not to do those things before he did them. My dad disbelieved the and threw tantrums at my home, trying to make me see the was a made-up story. He's done other things since to actively sabotage my recovery, like withdrawing finances, dissuading contractors from helping me finish my home, calling me a joke, etc. My mother was MIA throughout. More on that in a sec. My brother-in-law and sister have a business that is the sole supplier to my ex-husband's business. My ex relies on that business as his only means of income. Without being supplied by them, he would have to fold. We're well known in our town and hold sway over the locals, especially next to outsiders. It's closed here unless you know someone who will vouch for you. And my ex is a grifter with no ties here. He's a parasite. Without the support of my family, he'd have to go home. He's also a predator looking for vulnerable people to exploit, and once he'd moved here, he realized he'd hit the jackpot. A small town with trusting folks, many elderly, widows, etc., that he could take advantage of as his clients. My brother-in-law and sister could have prevented that. When my separation happened, my brother-in-law and sister disbelieved that I had been demanded that I prove it, encouraged me to stay with him, doubled down on supplying my ex's business, and continued to be social with him. I want to note, the amount of business my ex was bringing to my family's business was negligible, so finances were a non-factor in the decision. Had they been loyal to me and stood behind me, stopped supplying him, etc., there's a 90% chance my ex would have gone back to his hometown. Thankfully, 3 hours from here. They didn't do that. They took extra steps to make sure he remained close by and continued to be a lethal threat to me, and a threat to vulnerable locals. When all this happened, I cut ties with my family, obviously. I've been no contact with them for the past 4 years. I developed a new set of family and friends, pulled myself out of the isolation, changed careers, finished my house, healed. I've never felt happier or healthier. A little on how we got there. My mother has narcissistic personality disorder. My dad is her victim, enabler, and he's developed his own habits over the years. My childhood was extremely with my mother at the helm. That's why I ended up marrying a predator and not seeing the signs. In my family, I was the scapegoat and my sister was the golden child. My mother in this equation is probably enjoying this and pleased I'm no longer part of the family. So we'll leave her out of this. Here's my question. In the first 2 years of no contact, my family thought it was a big joke. They didn't take it seriously, made me out as a joke to people in my community, etc. They were in denial and repeatedly ignored my requests to stop dropping in unannounced. They acted like this wasn't happening and everything was normal. Then my sister had her first child. I wasn't there for it, and things started to sink in a little bit. They finally stopped trampling my boundaries, no contact, stopped dropping by unannounced, and my sister finally started taking a tone that might loosely be recognized as atonement. None of what she said has resembled a meaningful apology, or empathy for me, or what she did, but truthfully, I think that may be a stretch for a narcissistic family. She has actually typed the words, "I'm sorry," in an email. So there's that. My dad, last week, did the first thing ever that was 1. Kind, 2. Considerate, 3. No strings attached, 4. Guilt tantrum free. That's a big deal, and I wonder if you might be starting to get it. He's the only one that has painfully tried to keep connected and made efforts these past 4 years, though he is undeniably a toxic person. They all clearly want me back in their lives. Where do I go from here? Take some time to observe if they have actually changed because they want to improve things with you, or if it's just a facade. You've been through a lot. You deserve peace. Honestly, I wouldn't let them back into my life if I were you. The things they have done to you are simply unforgivable, and how could you possibly trust them again? They are awful, awful people, and life is too short to have that kind of people in your life. My first thought was that they wanted you back because they either need something from you, your parents needing help as they get older, or that other people must realize that your family did something truly horrible to you for you to cut off contact with them for so long. And if you come back to the family, people will stop talking. Hello, I'm new here, but have a moral dilemma question and cannot work out who is right. I have been married to my husband for 19 years and together 26. But we started off as an illicit affair all those years ago, and it was ugly. Now, all these years later, our children from my first marriages are grown up, married, kids, jobs, houses, etc., and all fine. But to this day, I am never ever allowed to be in the same room as his children or grandchildren. They hate me, and I am blamed entirely for the affair, even though in truth it was actually more the other way around. But all that is lost in history. I am perceived as the monster, scapegoat, whatever. We share a holiday caravan which we renovated together and is very special to us, and was always the only marital space, really. My family are absolutely fine with him now, despite their anger at him years ago. They've moved on and are nice to him as he's my husband. But it's not the other way around. I am utterly excluded from absolutely everything, not even my name on a wedding invite, etc. But I would never ever have wanted to go to these events in the circumstances. But here's where I am drawing the line and need to ask if I am being unreasonable. His adult children and their spouses and their children all go to our holiday home, and when they do, I am not allowed to be there. In fact, if they are planning to go and I am there already, I have to leave. I have tried to get my husband to change this over the years, but he refuses, saying it's totally reasonable and I should understand and respect their hatred of me. Yet he has never stood up for me and shared responsibility for our relationship, even given it was him who pursued it so obsessively and begged me to marry him, etc. I have decided that enough is enough, and I won't be treated like this for the rest of my life. I am almost 60, and actually a nice benign person, a bit weak to be honest, and cannot seem to stand up for myself. He is utterly furious with me now, and threatening divorce, and that he'll take the caravan away from me totally, etc. As if he's far more protective of his children's hatred for me than our relationship or my sense of dignity. I feel that he is completely wrong about this, but I am asking here if I am perhaps off the mark. Is he reasonable? Are the children reasonable? If they hate me so much still and want to hold on to that, couldn't they go to a different holiday venue? Help. They don't need to move on. They don't need to get over it. They never have to. It's been 26 years, but some people aren't forgiven, and this is one of those times. Pretty much the stepkids are irrelevant here, because it comes down to your husband tolerating and condoning this, choosing to use you as a scapegoat to keep his children in his life. The worst part is you let him. You accepted this role and didn't stand up for yourself, and your husband knew you wouldn't, because you admit you're a bit weak, and he totally, absolutely took advantage of that. I'll be the one to say it. Not wanting you at their personal family events is acceptable. That's sometimes the cross you bear when you conduct an affair. Yeah, your family accepted him because their mom didn't get cheated on. Come on, use common sense there. It's entirely different for them. But the catch here is the fact that you're not allowed to stay in your holiday home that you've contributed to. That is a hard no from me. It's fine if they want to use it when you aren't there. But for you to leave when you are there, just to make sure they can come? No. They can wait their turn, or at least plan arrangements ahead of schedule. You shouldn't get kicked out of your house when your husband's kids decide they want to chill there. No. I'm not saying you are a horrible person. I'm not saying you deserve this treatment from your husband. But what did you expect? He cheated on their mom with you, and you stayed after he showed he would not prioritize you over his kids. Yeah, your husband might have pursued you, but you entertained it and participated in it. Own your stuff. Kids coming first is reasonable to an extent, and I can't say this arrangement is wholly off because they don't like you, have never liked you, and you don't like them. He is their dad. Many people want relationships with their parents, and this is the narrative they spawned when you weren't responsible for this, at least not completely. I'd draw the line at the holiday home and call the maybe bluff about divorce because your husband doesn't sound like he respects you. He's never respected you in the 26 years you've been married. Why do you think he stayed?